So my name's Patrick Larkin, as Pete said, and I'm proud to be one of the recipients of the 2012 Digital Principal Awards, along with Eric Scheninger and Mike King. So I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on here in Burlington in the last few years as we led up to our 1,000 iPad launch this past fall. And let me show you the next slide is some of my contact information. So there's a lot of useful stuff. I'll be alluding to some of this stuff during the course of the webinar at patrickmlarkin.com. The thing that really got us moving on this path that we're on here at Burlington High School was looking at our mission statement. I know we all have them. I'm not sure how close attention we pay to them in schools, but at Burlington it says clearly that we teach responsible citizenship. And if we're not dealing with digital citizenship in the year 2012, then we're not dealing with responsible citizenship. So either we had to go back and modify our mission statement, or we had to start to embrace some of these tools. The culture change really started for us back in 2009, which was towards the end of my first year as principal here in Burlington. And we had a policy in our handbook that said we don't allow the use of cell phones in school. Unfortunately, that wasn't the reality. Our students were polled by the student newspaper here at the time in the January preceding this change, and we found out that even though we weren't allowing cell phones in school as our policy read, 100% of our students surveyed, just under 100%, were receiving at least 3 text messages a day. How could that happen when our handbook said no cell phones in school? And then 85% of our students, again, honestly, told us they were receiving more than 15 text messages a day. And so we faced this dilemma. What do we want to be about here as a school? What do we really want to spend time on? What's important to us? For us, I decided I didn't want my associate principal's main job to be chasing cell phones. We put out a change to our policy for the following year that at teachers' discretion, cell phones may be used in classrooms for educational purposes. And that became kind of a little step in the right direction. A lot of people that were against doing this, we said, let's see how this goes. Let's let teachers that want to use them in their classrooms use them, and they'll provide some concrete examples of what they're doing. And, you know, we get to the midway point of the year, and there'd been no problem in classrooms. The following year, we decided we were going to open up cell phone use throughout the building, cafeteria, hallways, as long as it wasn't in class time and a disruption. So still in a classroom setting, it was at the teacher's discretion. And then any other time, kids could use their cell phones. Again, I want to keep harping on the fact that we're trying to prepare our kids for the real world, and I do believe this is what happens in the real world. And if we're going to have conversations with kids about balance and when they should text and how to be responsible or respectful when you're talking to somebody, how can we have those conversations about balance if we have schools that promote imbalance and don't even allow the students to bring them in the building? If you're going to look at becoming a one-to-one school with an iPad or any device, and this is what your policy reads, I think you have a long way to go. So I think there's some small steps you can take to move in the right direction, because whether we like it or not, whether we're one-to-one schools, we have one-to-one kids right now. Actually, we probably have 2-to-1 kids, if not 3-to-1 kids, with the number of devices they have in their pockets or that they could bring into school with them. It's a different context, but a lot of people will ask, well, aren't kids distracted when you have iPads in their hands all the time? And I always tell the story honestly, and I want you to think back to your own past experience. When I was in high school back in the mid-'80s, I remember sitting in certain classrooms and I was distracted, and the iPad didn't even exist, nor did, you know, some of these fancy phones that we have nowadays. Distraction, I don't believe, should be equated with technology. If you just want to hear about iPads today, I'll have some answers at the end of this, but this is not about technology. This is not about iPads. This is really about having engaging learning environments. That's what our focus has been. So the question that we're asking is not whether or not we should allow cell phones in our school. It's what should learning environments look like for us? What do we expect learning to look like? So you have, you know, a couple of the pictures here at the top of this slide are pretty traditional classroom settings, what probably a lot of our schools look like. And frankly, a lot of the classrooms here at Burlington High School look like. But if we're just going to throw 1,000 iPads into these traditional rooms and do business the way we've always done it, I think we're wasting a lot of our money. So it's not just about that. The other pictures on the slide are from Burlington High School, and they make me think a lot. The first year, going one-to-one, you know, some things have changed around here, and I like it, but I have to take a step back sometimes. So the two pictures at the bottom are actually kids right around the main office area, and I use the main lobby as my office. So, you know, I have these three girls on the right-hand side. They were running around the corner smiling, and I knew something was wrong when they were running around and smiling in school. That just shouldn't happen, right? So anyway, you know, there's a QR code on the wall there that they had, their teacher had put up a scavenger hunt where they had to get to different locations, solve a problem as a group, and then move on to the next spot. And again, this could have been done, you know, traditionally without iPads, but the QR code obviously couldn't have been. But this was something that we wouldn't have seen previously. The kids on the left at the bottom on the red steps, they're in our main lobby. People are walking. The mat you can see is right by the entryway. And, you know, here we have the first thing people are going to see when they walk into the school is kids sitting on the steps. Should that happen? Of course it should. I like the fact that people can walk in the door and the first thing they see is kids learning, kids working together. In the photo in the middle was one when we're doing our classroom walkthroughs. I'm walking around, and I thought I caught this student up to something. She's FaceTiming with one of her friends. I'm like, you know, what's going on? What's going on with Hannah? Well, Hannah's home sick today, and we're working on a group project for tomorrow, and she wanted to be part of the planning. So again, some of these are things that could not have happened before, and just changing what learning can look like for us at Burlington High School, and certainly that's just a few of the many possibilities. The other thing we're asking ourselves is, who's leading the learning? I alluded to that before about distractions in classrooms where there are distractions or kids are bored. I think that's an environment where it's primarily a teacher-led environment. The teacher is doing all of the talking, and the students are just sitting there passively. So these pictures from around Burlington High School this year are actually our kids are out in front. They are, as part of this initiative, they are really leading the way for us. The students are so much more comfortable using the iPads, the technological devices, and you couple that with teachers that are excellent teachers with their content, and you get them comfortable working with one another and not having the teacher feel like they have to be the expert on all things, you can really make some progress. And the other thing, beyond changing the classroom environment, with this initiative, our students are the key people. They're the key tech people. There's no way our tech group, we have 3 people that work on our network and hardware issues for 6 schools in Burlington. There's no way we could have deployed over 1,000 more devices and had these 3 people be the go-to people for all the problems that were going to happen. So what we did was we created a student-led tech team. And the student-led tech team is the first group that people go to, whether it's teachers or students, and they're having problems with iPad apps, with any digital resources, they go to the kids first to get support. This is from NCTE, National Council of Teachers of English, and this is from 2007. And here we have the group that pretty much defines literacy standards for our schools, telling us that kids need to be using these tools. And so what it means to be literate has changed. So more support for this. I know we're all moving towards the Common Core, and the Common Core has language about the fact that we need to use technology and some of these media tools for students. I was so excited last spring when NASSP came out with this position statement. So if your principal, if your administration is not supportive of this type of environment, here you go. Show them their national organization put out a position statement last spring that says we should be using mobile learning devices in social media in instruction. This is how we're going to teach kids to use this stuff responsibly. So this slide from the National Staff Development Council is not necessarily about technology, but it's about any initiative. And any initiative that's going to be successful, we need to have more than 14 hours per year on focused professional development in that area to have it benefit students and have student outcomes change. So you need 49 hours. Again, 49 hours only gets you 21% of student gain. And So for us at Burlington, we had to start to rethink things. These drop-in professional development days aren't going to do the trick. 3 days at the beginning of the school year aren't going to do the trick. A few days at the end, having a summer workshop is not going to do it. We need embedded PD. We need to take opportunities every day, every week to get staff together to gain comfort level. When it comes for us, we're talking about using digital tools. So here's a couple of things we've done. One of the things which I think the EdCamp movement has really made us think a lot about how we do professional development. In my mind, EdCamp is about teachers showing up and saying we can do professional development on our own better than our schools do it for us. So we've gotten out of the one-size approach, like we're all going to learn about this on this day, and what we've given is teachers more of a say in what they're doing. So all summer long, and we've done this at portions during the school year, but all summer long, every Tuesday, we hosted an ed camp, and from 8 to 12, teachers could show up, and they set the agenda as far as what they were going to learn about on that day. It's not always technology related, but a lot of it is learning about digital tools that they can bring into their classroom. Another thing we've done is we started this Massachusetts, and we shouldn't even call it Massachusetts, but we've started a digital publication collaborative asking schools that are interested in moving away from traditional textbooks as the foundation for their courses to join us and look at all the ways that teachers can curate and organize their content so they can have a class that's not run based on a textbook, and they can use a lot of these free open resources that are available. And again, if teachers don't get comfortable with this stuff, students aren't going to get comfortable with this type of thing. Here's another thing that we did based on, again, a little bit out of the EdCamp page, but we basically put out a Google Doc, and we had teachers fill in the slots. It was a wide open day. We gave them a few weeks lead time. We said, what do you want to learn about on the professional development day? Put it on this Google Doc. The teachers filled the Google Doc. Once they put out what they wanted to learn about, we sent out another Google Doc and asked teachers that had expertise in the areas that their colleagues had shown interest in to lead a session, and that filled up. And here you see the end result. Teachers set the agenda. It wasn't set for them. The learners set the agenda. And again, I've never seen a professional development feedback form that showed 97% approval before, but here was one example of that. Another thing we've then taken even a step further, there's been a lot of talk about FedEx days, and we called it a Google Day back in March 2010 when we tried this. But basically it was teachers, a whole day, they decide what they're going to do. Off the company agenda. It's been written about by Daniel Pink in Drive, I believe, where he talked a little bit about this. But when we allow people, we trust people, we hire great teachers, we hire talented professionals, and we trust them to kind of use the time productively, you get some amazing things out of it. So back in the days of Google Labs, they mandated that, and again, mandate sounds funny when it comes to this, but they mandated that their employees had to spend 20% of their time off the company agenda. So basically, Google ended up finding out that a lot of their big breakthroughs were when they allowed their great employees to get together with colleagues and work on things they were interested in on those days. So we did the same thing on a PD day. We gave the staff, I said, I don't want you listening to your department heads. I don't want you correcting work. What I want you to do is get together with someone in your department or out of your department and work on something that you've been thinking about, you just never had the time to do. And one of the best examples is one of our English teachers created this Google map of England with all the sites based on different literary events and authors and so forth. So, and they loved it. And I think the carryover was when a science teacher told me that he came back and on a Friday one week he gave his students a Google Day. And he said, we've been doing all this stuff. Today I want you to focus on one thing. You can go off in any direction on this topic that we've been dealing with, and the kids loved it. So I guess for our teachers to start to see some of the possibilities, we have to change the way we facilitate their learning.